If I had a crystal ball and I could look into this crystal ball and tell you guys exactly where your business opportunities lie looking forward, what is working in the future, what is not working in the future, things that we should totally eliminate, things that we should totally start doing in order to see your business grow and flourish. Imagine how amazing that would be. Guys, I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have the next best thing. We've recently just launched our opportunity analysis, and the entire premise of this exercise is to help you guys understand where the holes in your bucket currently lie. Why is that important? Because we don't want to start filling a bucket that's leaking. Guys, for a limited time only, I'm going to be offering this as a free giveaway. It's $350, but for you site shedders, you're going to get it for free. You need to head across to tradie.wiki/grow and enter the code SiteShed to get it for nothing. Off the back of it, book a time to have a chat and we'll see where it takes us. We're looking forward to helping you and seeing where your opportunities lie. Today's podcast has been proudly brought to you by Tradie Web Guys. Tradie Web Guys work with tradespeople only on their websites and marketing solutions to help them stand out from their competition. Everything from web design through to SEO, search engine marketing, content creation, you name it, guys. It is a customized solution for trade-based organizations and it's fantastic. Head across to tradiewebguys.com.au/apply, fill in the form and let's have a conversation.
Giving tradies and contractors around the globe the tools to run a modern business. You're listening to Toolbox Talks from the Site Shed. Now here's your host, Matt Jones.
Hello, Site Shedders. Welcome back to, actually, this is the first podcast that I've recorded for 2022. We had a few in the backlog there. And today I want to talk to you about I won't say a problem. Well, it is a problem, I suppose. But it's very much as well it happens so frequently, what I'm going to be talking about today. It's happened to me twice already this week and we're only at Thursday. And the more you think about this, the more you're going to be able to relate to, I hope anyway, this is the whole point of this, is to help you try and relate to this situation, because I want to cast a bit of clarity and vision as to, the level of control that we have with our current situations. So call it what you want, but essentially, I want to talk to you today about owning your shit. And it's an issue that, as I said before, I see it with people's relationships. I see it with people's businesses. I see it with the way they interact with their children and all sorts of things. And it's everywhere around us. And it's very much a mindset issue, but mindset's got a bit of a wishy-washy, I suppose, rapport to it. And so I don't really want to go down that path. And I should also clarify at this point in time, I'm not a business coach. I'm just giving you this information, not off a program that I've got or anything I'm trying to sell. I'm giving you this information off real life experiences that I have learned through being a business owner. And so this is these are things that, over the years, I've absolutely been able to observe and put systems in place to not eliminate, but certainly mitigate. And I encourage you guys to do the same thing. That whole concept around mindset is really, if I could summarize it, the way that I read it is basically you're in control of your outcomes. And realistically, if you put where you are today, the positions that you are in right now are pretty much 99.999% as a result of decisions you've made or habits you've developed. And you've probably read that in a million books, but it's seriously true. If you think about it at the end of the day, there's really no reason, there's no one else to blame for where you currently are within your business other than you. So you might go, I'll get the worst customers in the world. Okay, well then you engage them, so that's on you. Or you didn't have the right onboarding process, that's on you. Oh, my wife's turning into a real bitch. Is she really? Or are you just turning into a fat, lazy slob? There's all these different things that come into play when we're talking about where you are currently at. And 99.99% of those times, it comes back to decisions you've made and habits that you've developed, likely for the worse. There's a couple of, before I get started on this was a realization that I was brought to my attention through a business coach many, many, many years ago. And since then, I've read it in multiple books. And it's never, I'm always learning. It's always an evolution, understanding this thing. And this is where, if I'm speaking to you guys out there and you're not currently happy with an area of your business or somewhere within your life, then I want you to consider this as a starting point, right? So this is a benchmark from where you can improve from. And that's a really, really important point. And it's a challenge that I would like to throw out to you guys in all areas of things you do. Like, if you don't have a benchmark created for whatever it is you're trying to improve, then how are you going to know if you're on the track to success? How are you going to know if things are actually improving? So some of those things you can use technology for. Some of them you can use, I don't know, a tape measure for example. Like if you're trying to lose weight, then, you can measure your waist or whatever it might be, right? There's weight. The point is just figure out a way to measure it, create a benchmark so that you know if you're on the right track. Now, one of the things that I experience and we as humans are prolific at doing is fabricating beliefs and creating excuses for things which are completely unjustified. Now, I'll give you a couple of examples here, right? So I have, an almost 3-year-old daughter and we've got a baby, and we've always been with our daughter very liberal in the sense of we don't want to build fears into her belief system that are not justified. For example, if there's a spider, don't be afraid of it, just leave it alone. If there's, a snake on the ground, don't go touch it, just leave it alone. Like, you don't have to be afraid of it, just don't, just teach them how to handle these things. And we fabricate these things over and over again and to the point where they become crippling. And, you hear things like people will say things like, well, that's just me. That's just my personality. That's the way I am. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Like, you're in control of that. You're just talking yourself into something, possibly to justify some level of laziness, or possibly because you're just too stubborn to actually actively go and seek a way to be better at something. And you see it all the time. So fabricated beliefs are not, most of the problems that we have are as a result of a fabricated belief. And if you put that in, you can challenge me on that if you want, but I can guarantee you that if you've got a fear about something, I don't like heights. Sure, you may not like heights, but it's because you've built this fear into yourself where you are all of a sudden afraid of heights. There's no reason for you to be afraid of heights. I mean, perhaps there is. Perhaps once you fell off a ladder, but does that justify always being afraid of heights? Sure, heights are scary, but that doesn't necessarily mean you should be forever fearful of them. Other things which you might relate to. I'm not a morning person. I'm terrible in the mornings. These are decisions. That is just a straight up decision. You can wake up one day and go, you know what? Stuff it. I want to sleep until 10 o'clock every morning and waste half my day. And that is a straight up decision. I'm a night person. I'm not a morning person. It's bullshit. It's all complete bullshit. So the point I'm trying to make here is don't create these fabricated beliefs and try and justify them through just ridiculous excuses, because it's a fallacy and you're doing yourself an injustice. So you really want to own this situation. Now, I'm going to put this into the context of business for you guys to give you a bit of an understanding of, I suppose, what spurred this conversation or what spurred this podcast. And it was a conversation that I was having with one of my best mates, which in truth is probably the last person in the world that they want to get, seek counsel from. It's very hard to sit down and, have a beer with someone one day and then try and give them business counsel the next. But the point is, this person came to me with looking for the answer to a problem, and it was actually around hiring. And so I sent them some resources, some places to go where they can learn about this. And then it went on to this rippled conversation back and forth about how, and the resources I sent them were books. Now, this is what I've learned over the years, and especially of late. Last year, I put a huge amount, pretty much 12 months worth of work into improving process, creating systems within the business in the space of HR and recruiting, project management, and a lot of stuff relating to the structural side of my businesses. Now, I could sit down with people, and I know because I actually did this. I sat down with this person and his manager, and I ran them through what I developed, and it was literally in one ear and straight out the other. Because even though I had created these processes off the, all this information that I'd acquired and learned, these systems that I'd developed, when it went to black and white, it didn't mean anything to them because they hadn't been through the process, right? So what I want to say to you guys is I'm going to run you through a bit of a framework here on how you can improve these things. But it all starts with, first of all, you want to throw caution to the wind when it comes to, you want to get rid of being ignorant and you want to get rid of being arrogant. Now, arrogance is that situation where like, well, I don't like doing that and I'm not you and you might do it, but that's not me. That's an arrogant thing to say and it's stupid. And it's quite ignorant as well. The other thing is you're never going to, if you've got that mindset going, like when you're out there looking for solutions to problems, you're always going to have your defenses up and you're going to miss a lot of things. Like you might have heard that saying I'm paraphrasing this, I think it was like a Chinese proverb or something, but it was something along the lines of when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, right? Something like that. But what it's essentially saying is like when you are ready to receive the information and when you're ready, your receptors are open, then you'll be amazed at the opportunities that present themselves. So the first thing is you've got to be willing and wanting to actually get help in whatever area it might be for you. It's really hard for you to, first of all, acknowledge that you've got a problem, or maybe it's not even a problem. Maybe you're just looking for a better way to do something. I mean, we're in a very fast, moving technology age here where things do move pretty quickly, and there's a very good chance that there is a better way of doing something. So, like understanding that and being receptive to that is, it will definitely play to your advantage. Anyway, owning that situation, right? So, okay, well, this is where we're at, and this is what I want to achieve, and this is the reason why. What does that actually look like? So, the thing that you really want to know is, what's the result? Like, is it an area that needs improving? Is it an outcome that a specific outcome that you're desiring? Like if it's like, okay, well, I want to be off the tools within the next, 24 months. Okay, well, cool. That's an outcome, right? So if you've got some clarification around that, then if that's the end goal, it makes it really easy for you to reverse engineer that. And more importantly, go looking for resources or tools or whatever it might be that can help you get to that point. Now, what are those tools? What are those resources? Who knows? They could be a number of things. It could be a podcast like this. It could be a audio book. It could be a written book. It could be a course. It could be a coach. It could be a number of different things, right? But the point is, if you don't necessarily understand what that outcome looks like specifically, then it's going to be very hard for you to get help to achieve something because you don't know what it is. You don't have any clarity around it. So get some clarity around what that outcome looks like or what that specific area is that you want to improve. And then you can then go about finding the right help to help you get there, all right? Now, another thing that I really want to talk about, don't get hung up on the process. This is another ignorant obstacle that, or objection as well that I get all the time. It's not about the outcome. Like I couldn't care less if you don't enjoy reading books. It's got nothing to do with it. I genuinely, like when people say, oh, I would read that book, but I don't like reading. Like I couldn't care less. You didn't come to me asking with a list of things that can help you with, and these are the ones that I like doing, these are the ones that I don't. No, it doesn't work like that. Like if you want the result, do the thing. And so don't get caught up in the process. Like it's always about the outcome. And this is a situation that I found myself repeatedly, I won't say struggling with, but something that held me back for a while was I would go into information paralysis, and maybe you've been there yourself. And what I mean by that is, like I just knew I needed information on things, and I would read 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 and I would listen to books and I listen to books, and I wouldn't implement anything. And in truth, it wasn't until the last few years that I've developed a process around the way that I read and the way that I take information from those books and apply it to an area of my life or my business. And sometimes I'll use technology for that. Sometimes it's just like the way I think or whatever it might be, right? But the point is, you want to don't get caught up in the process. Like I don't care if you don't like watching videos. It's not about that. I don't care if you don't like reading books. It's not about that. It's about the outcome that you're seeking. So if that outcome that you're seeking comes from the result of listening to an audiobook, then go and listen to the freaking audiobook and don't get caught up on it, and don't make stupid excuses about how you don't like doing something, because it's not about that. It's about the outcome. So, there's always a million other things you'd rather be doing than some of this stuff. There's probably a million other things you'd rather be doing right now than listening to this podcast. But the reality is you're doing it because you're investing in yourself and you're wanting to get a cutting edge on something. You're wanting to get ahead in one area of your business or your life, and you're wanting to get that little golden nugget that you might be able to relate to. So take that excuse off the table. Just do it. Just make that decision once. Just say, I'm not going to make these stupid excuses about these things. I'm just going to get it done, right? The other thing I would say, one of the biggest probably segues that I ever made into making positive change in this area was in habit creation and getting into like little routines. And there's a couple of amazing books you can read if you're at that point within your life and you want to learn more about creating positive habits. There's a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. I'll put some links to this in the notes, some Amazon links. And there's another book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, which I'm actually going through again right now. I've just bought this book for my team, or a bunch of them anyway. Great book, but it basically just cuts through a lot of that excuse making and, talks a lot to, creating positive habits and the compounding effect that positive habits can make. Because I at the beginning, I've said this a few times on the podcast, at the beginning of last year, when I was, plotting as to what I want to do throughout the year and what the outcomes want to look like, I was watching something with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it. I know, which is not a good start. I appreciate that. But essentially he was saying, like he's a prolific goal setter and he's a prolific goal achiever. And he has always had this mantra, and I very much doubt he came up with it himself, but certainly something he lives by, where he wants to make 1% improvements across the board with things. And the reality is, like, a 1% improvement may not seem like a huge thing to achieve for you. So, if you want to improve your sales by 1%, that might not sound like a lot. If you want to improve your profit margins by 1%, it might not seem like a lot. But the reality is, when you pull all these things together, they compound. And it's the compounding effect of, these increments, these incremental improvements, which really makes a significant difference. And the other thing that I've learned over doing this as well is that you very rarely, if you shoot for a 1% improvement in something, you'll very rarely achieve 1% improvement. It's very often 5, 10, 15 plus. If you dial the process in and you really work on it. But it does go back to understanding where you want to improve, and specifically what areas you want to improve, right? And having a way to benchmark it and measure and scale from it. So anyway, that was a really big realization for me at the beginning of last year. And as a result, we applied that last year across the board, and we had some amazing outcomes, all over the place with personal and business. But you need to be accountable to that. And you don't want to be as humans, we do look for the easy way out with a lot of things. It's great to have some level of accountability built into whatever it is you're deciding you want to do. And that might be accountability through, having an accountability partner. I've had one of those in the past. It was great. I've had, accountability through coaching programs. Again, great. And in truth, like, some of the best coaching programs out there will teach you something and then hold you accountable to doing that thing, right? So, most of the successful coaching programs that I've seen have an element to that program where it is really all about accountability. And the way that I like to do accountability now is I like to keep myself accountable. And sure, I have a coach and I'm accountable to things that I say I'm going to do there, but the way that I've got things set up now within my business and my life is I have, structured goals, and I have structured milestones that I need to hit those goals, and I keep myself accountable to them. Now, that has been a development over the years, and in truth, sometimes if you're getting started with this stuff, it might not be enough because you need someone on your back yelling at you. It's like when you go to the gym, right? If you go to the gym and you go and do your own thing, you walk around, you might lift a few weights here and there, you'll go chatting to some mates, you'll come back, you'll do this, you do that, and you'll leave and you'll go home and you say, hey, I've been to the gym, killed it. But then you go do like a high intensity interval class and you walk out of there and you're completely flogged, because you've got someone screaming at you and you've got things to follow, right? And you're accountable to your coach when you're there. Now, it takes a strong will and a certain type of person to be able to get that same type of training or do that same type of training on their own at home, which is why people join gyms, and probably to a point join gyms and don't go. But the point I'm trying to make here is, be accountable, right? So once you've mapped out these things, you want to become resourceful. And so what I mean by that, I mean, we live, as I said before, in the information age. We have just got information coming at us left, right, and center in all different formats, all different types, all different styles. You don't have an excuse for not, reaching out and getting hold of this information. Be resourceful. You've got Amazon at your fingertips. You can download an audiobook in seconds on your phone. It might cost you $15 a month or something for an Audible subscription, or you can buy books. Like, there's so many good books out there. And don't get me wrong, there's so many crap books out there as well. But the point is, like, be resourceful. Go look for information on the good ones, and don't get the shitty ones. Like, whatever, right? Speak to people. Again, and I go through this process of, like, before I read a book, I make sure that it's the right book that is there to help me get the information that I want at that specific time. And that's a really important thing for you to understand when you're going through that whole defining the areas that need improvement or the outcomes you desire. Like, be specific with it. Like, if you need help with your hiring process, then go and find a book on that. If you need help with, creating habits, go and find programs or books or podcasts or whatever that speak to that. Don't just read books because someone recommended it. It's make sure it's specific and it speaks to where you're at. And to put that into context, a number of times, I couldn't even tell you how many times, but like, so often I've read a book and then I've come back and read that book a few years on, and it's like I picked up a completely different book. And it's because where I was at in my life and where I was at was in my business was a completely different stage. And so the things that I extracted from that book or from that course or whatever it was were just completely different. And that's okay, because what happens is when you're like part of this owning your situation and part of this, defining these areas that need improving, they're going to send you down this pathway where you will inevitably realize that where you're currently at and what you're currently doing day to day within your business or your life is not going to get you to the next stage. And that is a really common occurrence. And I would encourage you guys to go through that exercise, because if you want to, get off the tools in 2 years, for example, or whatever it is, you need to have people in positions which can remove you from doing those things. And the only way you're going to do that is to strategize it. You can't just all of a sudden, pull someone off an air hook and like put them into your place and voila, it's all done, right? Like, you've got to plan these things if you want them done effectively and efficiently. So the point being, like, your role will always change. And like, I look at, what my role in the business last year as to what my role in my business is going to be this year, and it's completely different. And I suppose that's the beauty and the curse of being a business owner and entrepreneur. Like, your roles will always change, but it's not a bad thing. Like, it's necessary for your business for you to go through these changes. And it's great, and it's a great experience for you personally as well, because I've spoken about this on the show many times before as well. Back when I started, I was horrible with finance, and probably because we weren't making any money back then, and it was like, I used to hate the thought of opening my Xero and looking at how much money I didn't have, to the point where I just buried my head in the sand and I wouldn't worry about it. But over the years, I learned that, that through the school of hard knocks massively. Like, you can't do that. You can't just switch off your accounting department or finance department because you don't like it. Like, you've got to get better at these things. And since I started doing that, like, things started improving in that area. Big surprise. But what did that look like? Like, I had to go and educate myself about things. I had to go and find people that could help, because I had shitty people in my corner in that regard. I had to go find good people to be in my corner in that regard. I had to go and find good tools and good books I could use and good reporting systems and all this kind of stuff, so that I could gradually, bit by bit, understand it. And it's never been an easy thing for me. And if I'm honest, I don't like it. I do not like that side of the business. And only recently have I basically brought team members in that can take over that, although I definitely have a high level perspective of it now, because I understand it. But I had to learn it first before I gave it away to someone, especially something as important as finance. Anyway, the point being is that if you had told me, 15 years ago, you're going to be able to do this in the finance section of your business, I wouldn't even know what you were talking about. But then as you start doing it more, you learn these skills, you become proficient at it, and then it becomes more and more enjoyable. And that's the weird thing. Like, I spent last year, pretty much the entire year, creating processes, writing systems, across the board for the whole business. And like that was something that you would never, ever have convinced me that I would have been doing 15 years ago. Like it's just something I wouldn't thought I would do. But I just got addicted to it. And more importantly, I got addicted to the results they delivered, because I could see with every single one that I created, I was removing myself from doing something, or I was relieving a team member of something that was, stressing them or taking up too much of their time or whatever it might have been, right? So the results were fueling my desire to continue to do it. And they started igniting this flame and this machine that just kept cranking and cranking. And then all of a sudden I was creating processes on how to create processes, and my team members were buying into it, and they were all starting to get addicted to it. And now we've got this cadence where they understand the importance of doing these things and how much time it can save them if they do that sort of stuff, right? So the point I'm trying to make is you the role in my business as of this year is going to be significantly different, because we're developing a whole nother product suite, and we're developing a whole nother area of the business, and we've got big sales teams coming on board, and outreach people and content creators, all this kind of stuff, right? Like it's turning into a bit of a machine. But like that was not my focus at all last year, because I knew that I had to do these other stuff first. So I had clarity around the outcomes, and I have clarity around my next set of outcomes. Now, I know a lot of you, I don't want to get too much into that at the moment. Like at the end of last year, I did a podcast on goal setting. If you want to get a little bit more clarity around outcomes and that kind of stuff, then you can go and listen to that podcast. In truth, I don't really care how you do it. I just want you to do it in a way that works, right? The way that I do things may not work for you, which is fine. But and this is the reality. Like I'll go and read all these books, and the cadence that I have now, like I was saying before, to avoid myself getting into information paralysis, like now I will go and read a book, and before I start another one, I've got a document that I fill out, and I record like what I learned on that book, what I can apply. And if there's specific things I need to apply, I will apply those things within the business, within our project management tools, within our like learning management systems or whatever it might be, before I go to the next thing. Because I know now that it's not about how much you consume, but it's about like what you apply from what you consume. So that's a big thing. Don't get any information paralysis. And if you're in the habit of listening to books, that's fine, but it's very easy to slip into that trap when you are listening to audiobooks, because you literally just finish one, start the next. And then there's like a whole thing there where you haven't actually taken the time to absorb and apply what you've learned. Anyway, I suppose to summarize this, like just own your shit. Like understand that where you're at is a direct result of decisions you've made, or the habits that you've developed for better or worse. And I'll give you another tip too. Like now that I'm 40, I've realized, and I see it everywhere, as the older you get, the easier it is to slip into habits, and the easier it is to like slip into ways of doing things which you deem correct, or you think they're the best possible ways. But then you see other people doing things other ways, and you either think that's crazy, why would they do that? Or oh wow, why didn't I ever think of that? The point being, it's the same in business, and it's the same in pretty much everything we do. Like you've got to be receptive to alternatives. Otherwise, you just get stuck in doing the same things. And you see it, like you've probably all got mates, or you've all got friends, you've all got family where you go, oh my God, they're just like stuck in this routine. And it's true, and there's nothing wrong with routine, but there is when there's almost like a barrier up in front of it where they're not willing to improve it. And like I look at our parents and some of the things that they do and some of the things they say, you just think, what are you talking about? Like just insanity, So like that will be you if you're not willing to change. And I can tell you now, and I was lucky, okay, because 20 odd years ago when I sort of started entering into the world of business and whatever, and I was introduced to my first sort of coach and mentor, and he told me, you will stay exactly the same if it's not for two things: the people you meet and the books you read. And now I suppose 20 years on, you might want to throw into that the books you listen to or the podcasts you listen to as well. But the point is, be open to counsel and be open to other ways of doing things. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to adopt them, but it certainly means you should take on board how things are done to make a judgment call on whether or not it can be done better. And if it can be done better, great. And if it can't, that's great too. So not everything needs to be put into action. But as I said to you before, the best way to make sure that you are actioning things and doing things that are of a benefit to you is by clearly defining what you want as an outcome or what you need to be improved, and then seeking the right resource to help you get that. So whatever that looks like for you, okay? Now, I can almost guarantee that if you came to me and you said, oh, I'm looking for, some help with this area, I could probably send you the right resources for it. But if you're not willing and you're not receptive to it, and you've still got a guard up for whatever reason about getting information out of that book or absorbing it or, applying it, then it's all for nothing. It's just going to be a waste of everyone's time. So you've got to have the right mindset when you approach these things, and you've got to be willing to take on board perspective, like other perspective and other experiences, so that you can essentially form your own process around, that specific thing. Okay. So anyway, that's all from me. I hope that was helpful. As again, guys, I just see this happening so often. I kind of selfishly recorded this podcast, I suppose, because the next time this comes up, I'm just going to send it to people. And I know 99% of the time they're not going to listen to it. And that's the reality, like 99% of the people out there. And this is a good thing as well, I should add. Most people will not do this. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it just means that, if you do want to become one of those 1%ers, then, you don't have to do a lot, but I can't express enough that mindset around wanting to do better and just micro bites. Don't overcomplicate it. Like, don't think about, I want to, have a 30% improvement here or blah, 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 whatever it is. It's too big. Just go for micro improvements and you just watch what happens. Like, it's the little bites, what's that saying? How do you need an elephant? One bite at a time. Like, you watch the compounding effect of these. Go and read the compound effect. Go and read Atomic Habits. Like, it'll blow you away. They're mind-boggling, really, and it will lay a really solid foundation for your mindset looking forward. And it will help you get rid of these fabricated beliefs and get rid of these, bullshit recurring excuses that you've just built into your life and into your business, which just hold no bearing. They hold no weight. So I really do wish you guys the best on this journey, because it is extremely rewarding, and by no means, as I said before, is it a destination. There's always something to learn there. But like, setting yourself on that path is going to open up a lot of doors for you. And I can't wait to hear your story. Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening to another episode of Toolbox Talks. If you're liking what you hear, then you can head across to thesiteshed.com, where you can join our community by signing up to our Toolbox Talks. You'll get sent a weekly notification, which is basically a highlight of everything that we've spoken about during that week, along with any other industry news that may be relevant or specific to the trades. If you're enjoying the show, you can head across to iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, where you can leave us a review. That would be fantastic, and all the reviews get read out in the show. Likewise, if you have any friends or colleagues that you think would benefit from this show and the episodes that we create, then please go ahead and share it with them.